Hello everyone, welcome back to eMarketing class. Today is the third session and we'll be covering chapter 3. The topic is eMarketing plan. As you all know, as a manager, the most important part of a job is to plan. In the case of eMarketing, also planning is the most important aspect. So we'll spend some time on trying to see how to prepare an eMarketing plan and what are the implementation techniques as well as the budgeting areas in there. So let's have a look at the objectives of today. The first objective is to discuss the nature and the importance of an e-marketing plan and outline its 7 steps. We learned that there are 7 steps involved. Once you learn those, it'll be easier for you to prepare a marketing plan or an e-marketing plan. Show the form of an e-marketing objective and highlight the use of objective versus the strategy matrix. Describe the tasks that marketers complete as they create e-marketing strategies. And then finally, we'll list some key revenues and costs identified during the budgeting step of the planning process. Now, when we talk about the marketing planning, we have to look at it from the point of view of the fact that it's not like a project, it's a process. And there's a very fine difference between the project and the process. In the case of a project, you start the project, and once you complete the project, that's it, it's the end of that project. However, in the case of process, when we say that it's an ongoing process, and in this case, you are not completing this as a project, but it will, based on the learning, you will again keep on improving and improving the process in itself. So the e-marketing plan is a blueprint for e-marketing strategy formulation and implementation. So let's say a company decides to use the information technology capabilities to see if they can leverage a certain opportunity available in the market, and for that purpose they decide to use the internet to promote their product, or could be, depending on the objectives, what are their objectives. It could be for the purpose of customer service, for the purpose of promoting the product, for the purpose of delivering the product, and so on and so forth. All of these things will be part of the marketing plan. So the plan serves as a roadmap to guide the firm, allocate resources, and make decisions. This is true with every other plan as well. But in the case of e-marketing plan, what we are talking about is that once we get the information from the specific strategic plan of the company, and then we have the marketing plan. Based on the marketing plan, we say, okay, portion of the business or all of our business will depend on the e-marketing. If that's the case, then you draw the e-marketing plan as well. So, for example, a company like Barnes and Nobles, I mentioned to you before, it's a bookstore, and they have their physical stores in all over the US in the shopping malls. So once they saw this opportunity, of course they had their own marketing plan, the standard marketing plan and the marketing objectives. However, when they saw this opportunity that companies like Amazon are now competing with them because they are selling books also online, so Barnes and Noble decided to use this as an opportunity and also set up a website and start selling books online. But before they started that, they had to prepare an e-marketing plan, and which, as we said over here, served them as a roadmap to guide the firm. It helps them allocate the resources and make the decisions too. There are two common types of plans. One is called the napkin plan. Now, as you can see from the word napkin, this has come from the word napkin because it's a very you can say non-traditional kind of way by which the plan is prepared. This was happening, or this is sometimes happening, when an entrepreneur comes up with an idea in which maybe he or she can use the internet. So discusses this idea with a investor, a potential investor, maybe over a cup of coffee or tea, and then helps them explain what this person has in mind and explains that on a maybe a napkin because they don't have any other paper, and that's why most of these .com companies, when they started these as a concept, it was exciting times, especially in the late 90s. That's the time when they would prepare this strategic plan on a napkin. And then if the investor is convinced, they would then go ahead and approve this and start the funding. So basically it's based on just do it approach. It's more of an activity based and the bottom up plan, in which case the entrepreneur has this idea and now this person is looking for the investors and the investor likes the idea. So investor commits to the funds and say, okay, go ahead and start the project in this case. Okay. That is the napkin plan. Of course, as you can tell from this, this is not a formal way of preparing a plan. This is not a very serious way of preparing a plan. And obviously, marketers do not approve of those. So you need to have a formal plan, because if you take this kind of napkin plan in order to get some investment from the banks, for example, of course they will reject that. So for this purpose, you need to have a comprehensive plan when they when these entrepreneurs are seeking some venture capital, when they're seeking some serious investors who want to invest in that. And as I gave you the example of a bank, the banks would also look into the formal plan in order to see whether this is viable or not, whether is it worth investing, what kind of projections you have in sales, what kind of budgeting is there, and is it worthwhile getting into there to get some return. When we talk about venture capital, there are some various sources of funding available. One is the private funds, it could be your family funds or some other. Than angel investors are some investors who are investing on maybe anonymous ways by which this is invested. And then you have also got the third one, which is the venture capitalist. These are the capitalists who are basically looking for people who are, like for example, if I read it from page 72, they mention about the venture capital, and it says that the plan prepared by the entrepreneurs for the venture capitalists should be about 8 to 10 pages long and contain enough data and logic to prove that, number one, that the business idea is solid, and secondly, the entrepreneur has some idea of how to run the business. In addition to the product's benefit and cost, it should include information about the competition, the target market and its potential, and the cost to acquire and retain the customers. So as you can see, they are looking for something serious, which is that second type of the plan, which is the comprehensive plan. They want to make sure that this information is in about 8 to 10 pages, which explains really if this entrepreneur knows what he's doing or not. Okay. Even though there are a number of ways to write an e-marketing plan, but the author of this book is suggesting 7 steps to make things easier. These steps will be one or the other way in any marketing plan. So the name might be different in some, if you go on website, for example, if you Google e-marketing plan, you will see numbers of marketing plans with maybe different formats. But at the end of the day, you will see the information which is presented over here in the 7 steps. It will be in those plans as well. Yeah. The first thing is the situation analysis. Situation analysis, as you know from the basic marketing classes, this is where when you do the macro environment and the micro environment analysis, and the end result of this situation analysis is the SWOT analysis, which is the basic SWOT. Secondly, e-marketing strategic planning. So based on the SWOT now, you may look at some opportunities which are available out there so that you can leverage on those opportunities, and then you prepare the strategic planning as to what you plan to do when it comes to using those opportunities out there. So for example, any marketing plan for a bank would be that what percentage of revenues they should be generating from the online business, or what could be their objective. Is their objective only to provide the customer service by using their customer relationship management techniques, or is it that they have to also you give them the facility of opening the account, applying for the loans, etc., etc. Thirdly, plan objectives. What are the objectives of this plan? We'll spend some time on those objectives in a little while, but as you know, we have discussed in some other courses also that the objectives need to be SMART. When we say SMART, it means they should be specific, measurable, achievable or actionable, okay, realistic, and time bound. They should be realistic objectives. So in this case, for example, one of your objective might be to get the revenue of about maybe $100,000 from sales from the online business in the next 1 year or next 2 years, as an example. That would be one of the objective of the e-marketing plan. Then we have the fourth one, which is the e-marketing strategy. As you know, the strategy, when we talk about strategy, is the long-term thinking of the marketing in the business. So in this case, when we talk about e-marketing strategy, it involves the STP, which is the segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Basically, you have the concept of those three. If you, for any reason you don't, please go back to the basic marketing book and read that so that you are able to better understand what is segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And in the e-marketing strategy, we discussed that in order to differentiate ourselves. Now, apart from this, we also have what is called the marketing mix, of course, and in the next 2 slides I will be explaining that to you later on. So we'll come back to the marketing mix as well as the uh, STP in a little while. Then you have the implementation plan, how each of the marketing mix will be implemented. Product, price, place, promotion, and in this case, when we talk about e-marketing plan, we'll be adding another one which is called the CRM, customer relationship management. Budgeting is another area of the marketing plan in which you give some kind of projections as to what kind of business you will be, what kind of costs are involved in this, and then where are they going to be spent, and what is the projection of sales if you plan to sell things online, for example. And then the evaluation plan, as with any other plan, we also need to see if we are going in the right direction. The evaluation plan will help us understand that too. So let's now go to the steps. Once again, as we saw, there are 7 steps. The first step is situation analysis. So let's go to the first step, situation analysis. The environmental factors. You are going to talk about various environmental factors which will help you into looking at the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats available in the market in reference to the e-business which you are planning to start. Could be legal factors. What are the laws and regulations about these uh, online business or e-commerce in your country as an example? I mean, I can give you one example here that in the case of the US, for example, if you purchase something online by the credit card and you don't receive it by any chance, or if you can demonstrate that no, I have not received the goods which were supposed to be delivered, or maybe the services which were supposed to be delivered, then you can get the full refund money except $25. All the money you can get back. Now, this is a big incentive for people because this way they can think of it as risk free, otherwise, they might think it's very risky. In some other countries, there are problems because they don't just, they don't guarantee you. So if you use certain credit card and you pay for, let's say, a certain product and it costs you $500, and for some reason the company turned out to be a phony company, still you will, lose that money. It's not like in the US where they will refund your money back except the $25. Okay, so there are a lot depends on what are the legal factors within your country about this. And by the way, the e-commerce law is a very, very complicated law because as we will learn later on, or as a matter of fact, maybe I can give you an example right here. Supposing a person, and I know somebody who started a business, I mean, this person is living in Canada. He started a business online and he used the hosting company in the US, and however, he was he had a bank in the offshore. So it was a free zone bank where he had the account, and his product was actually in Ethiopia, that's in Africa, and he would buy that product from there and deliver it to the customers in Ethiopia, and they would pay him online. So now the point here is if you are in Ethiopia and you have placed an order to this company, and let's say the product was not delivered. So now how do you claim your money back? Is it the Canadian law? Is it the American law? Is it the offshore law? Or is it the Ethiopian law? As you can see, it gets very, very complicated. Various countries are coming up with e-commerce law. In some cases, it is already drawn, but in some countries, they're still working on it too. Second is the technological factors. In the, if you recall in the first session while we were talking about the bubble burst, we said that lots of companies went out of business after 2-3 years of being in business online. One of the reasons for that was that people were not using internet a lot as they are using it now. So the penetration of the internet was not as much as it is now. So if same company would have started the business today, chances were that this company would be more successful. So what I'm trying to say here is that you have to look into the fact that what are the technological factors, um, what is the environment, technological environment within that country. So as you are seeing here in Korea as an example, that there are more and more people now, they are using their smartphones to purchase products and services. This was not the case 15 years ago. Same way now we are seeing that in China there are so many people owning the telephones and the computers, so the penetration is much more than it used to be before. So now the environment has changed, and this creates a lot of opportunities in the market to sell products or services online. Thirdly, market related factors. Maybe there's a demand for some product in the market, and maybe the competition is not that tough. And this is why, for example, we are seeing that when eBay started the business in US, that was the time when, right after that, when the penetration of internet increased in China. You all know that companies like Alibaba and other companies also came in, and they are becoming much more stronger than even the American companies because of the fact that there are lots of Chinese who are doing business or purchasing online, especially in the case of Alibaba as an example. So from these environmental factors, now you are getting the SWOT analysis, which means the SWOT. So let me give you a small example of the SWOT in the next slide, which is also in your book too. Let's have a look about a company which wanted to start business online, and their objectives it's mentioned over here. But before we talk about the objective, let's have a look at their SWOT analysis. So they did their environmental analysis or the situation analysis, and from there they came up with this opportunities, threats, strengths, and the weaknesses. Have a look at the opportunities. Spanish or the Spanish people, Spanish speaking people market is growing and untapped in our country. So in this case, they were focusing more on the Hispanic market. Save postage costs through email marketing. That's another opportunity. However, there were threats. Pending security law means costly software upgrades, and competitor X is aggressively using e-commerce. So this company is trying to get into certain business, but there is a company X which is already aggressive in that business. So my guess is that this company is trying to sell some products to the Spanish people in a certain market. However, they are seeing these kind of threats. But what are their strengths? They are strong in customer service department. So maybe this company is already existing and they have their products, they have the customer service, but they are now thinking of selling products online as well. Excellent website and the database system. So this is also their strength. They already have the website. However, they have some weakness. Low tech corporate culture. People working in that organization maybe are not too much into high tech. And that could be a weakness because in the e-marketing, you need a corporate culture which is high tech in this case, which means that both the front end and the back end you need to be really top of the line. Secondly, is the seasonal business peaks in summer months. So maybe the business which they are thinking of or the products which they are trying to sell online, this is mostly in summer business. Okay, so that's another weakness. Now the idea here is that anytime once you get the SWOT, you want to make sure that you use the opportunity so much that the threats is minimized or try to stay away from the threats. Same way you use your strength so much that the weaknesses are diminished though. Okay. Based on this, they have now come up with e-marketing objectives. So one of the objective is, in this case, they want to raise or get about $500,000 worth of revenue from the e-commerce in 1 year. That's a good smart objective in this case. So they have already decided that yes, we like to raise this much revenue or sales of about $500,000 from the business doing online, part of our business. That was the first step. Now let's look at the step 2, 3, and 4. Once again, let me show you if I go back to show you the steps here. So 2, 3, and 4, which is the e-marketing strategic planning, plan objectives, and the e-marketing strategy. All of these three are here in these three. This is, by the way, a very important slide. I'll be showing you that again and again because we will be we'll be doing things related to that. So let me first explain to you this diagram or the picture. We said step 2, 3, and 4. Step number 2 is when we said about marketing strategy, e-marketing strategy. So we need to do what is called the STP, which is segmentation, targeting, positioning, and differentiation. These four gray areas we need to work hard on in order to make sure that we make our online business successful. In other words, we need to see, for example, which segment of the market we want to cater to and target them clearly after learning more about them, and then do a positioning. In other words, position our product or service in the mind of the customer compared to competition. And then finally, it should be different. If your product or service is not different than the competition, you will not survive, especially in the case of online business. In the e-marketing plan, this is the most crucial part because, as you all know, we learned in the first chapter that the customer is very, very powerful now. If the customer sees that you are not adding any value and your product is not different than the other guys, or your service is not different than the other guys, then they will not buy from you. You have to do something different. Now remember, by saying something different does not mean that always it has to be a cheaper price. You have to be different from the others. So as an example, if we think of e-marketing strategy of a budget airline, then they have to specifically find out who is their segment, which they are trying to target. In this case, those people who are more online and they want to buy the tickets online. So in this case, your differentiation should be that your website should be so good and so fast to load that it would be better than the other guys in the sense that you will provide the best service to them. If you are not able to provide the best service through your website, then they will go back to the competition. Similarly, if you are providing them the lowest price and the best service, then they'll stick to you. AirAsia is a very good example, and I personally have experience going to their website and trying to see how you can book the tickets online. It's very, very user friendly, and in minutes you are able to book your flight. So I'm not saying there's no other airline doing that, but what I'm saying is that they are really providing value in this sense. So we'll have the next chapter, actually next one chapter, which is chapter number 8, which will be covering this step number 2. So chapter 8 will be covering this chapter 2, I mean the step 2. We also call it, in this book we will be talking about tier 1 tasks. These are called tier 1 tasks. All you see in the gray color is called the tier 1 task. Then we talk about step number 3, which is in between these two steps, 2 and 4, and that is when we'll talk about the e-marketing objectives. What are our objectives? So once we know who we are trying to target and how different we are going to be, what is our objective? Which means, as I told you, we can take the example of Korean Airline, and we might say that yes, we have an e-marketing plan, in which case we want our customers to come online and purchase ticket also from us. But at the same time, we know that we have some traditional customers also who do not use the internet. So what we say here is could be that maybe 20% of our revenue will come from the online business in the next 2 years. That could be a very good e-marketing objectives, which means 20% of our business will come through online in the next 2 years. So we'll discuss those objectives also, and we'll have we'll be talking about it in the marketing research, and today also we'll talk about various objectives. Finally, the the step number 4, which we also call tier 2 tasks, is the marketing mix, as you can tell. So in this case, the product we are talking about is also called an offer, which we are offering online, and the value which we are providing is the price. So of course we'll talk about the product strategies, the pricing strategies, and then the third P, which is the place, is the distribution. In which case, what will be our strategies? Are we going to be using intermediaries or not, as an example? And then fourth one is the promotion or the communication. As you can tell, or pretty much guess also, that in the e-marketing plan, the communication is the key thing, because you're far away from your customer, and unless and until you communicate to your customer properly, your business is not going to survive. And then finally, apart from these 4 P's, we also have what is called the CRM PRM. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, and PRM stands for Partner Relationship Management. This is an area also very important in online business. So if you go back to the contents of your textbook, you will see that chapter 9 is the product. We'll be covering chapter 9 for this. The product will be covered in chapter 9. Pricing will be covered in chapter 10. Distribution or the place will be covered in chapter 11. And then communication tools will be in chapter 12. And then also the customer relationship management will be covered in chapter 15. Okay. So mostly we will be covering most of the chapters of the book through this diagram, which are the step number 2, 3, and 4. So going back to step number 2, market and product strategies, which we just said, it is tier 1 tasks. Let me show you again. This is the one, tier 1 tasks, step number 2. So the outcomes of the strategic planning, which means that which segment we will be catering to, how are we going to target that segment, how different are we going to be from others, and what will be our positioning. If we still take the example of Korean Airline, let's say Korean Airline now decides to also get the segment, get the segment who would come online and buy the tickets themselves, and what segment that would be, what kind of people those are. Are they business people? Are they young people? What age groups they are? That's the way they are going to be doing segmentation on how to implement the e-marketing strategy. And then they will use all sorts of how we are going to be doing the targeting, and how is it going to be different than other people who are also offering online booking. And of course, the positioning of the Korean airline is the same as their offline, which means that they like to be considered as the top choice for Koreans to fly. And it's not a budget airline. Their prices certainly are going to be a little bit higher, but their positioning would be that they're providing the best service. Once we have done that, we also need to do what is called the market opportunity analysis. Marketers should conduct the analysis to determine the strategies, for example, market opportunity analysis, what kind of opportunities are available out there. Then a little bit about demand analysis. Is there really a demand there? Then a portion on the segment analysis, which would again link it to the segmentation, and the supply analysis, whether the product which we want to offer is the supply available or not, or the supplies are available or not. So all of this information would become part of the step number 2 for your marketing plan. Because as we said, you need to convince your venture capitalists or the bankers or the investors to invest the money in your project, and you need to write the right marketing plan. Step number 3, the objectives. Objectives are typically related to the tasks, measurable quantity and time frame. As I told you, they should be SMART, which means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Most e-marketing plans seek to, and now these are some of the objectives which they want to achieve from their e-marketing. So increase market share. So for example, I gave you this example of Air Asia, in which they want their e-marketing plan to increase their market share by being unique, increase sales revenue. Okay? The objective could be increasing the sales revenue, to reduce the cost. Of course, that's a major objective which companies have, that they could be that they are coming online in order to save money. A good example for that is Federal Express, in which they have the websites in order to reduce the cost, in the sense that customer service will be provided to the people, and they will be themselves checking their packages by tracking devices or the tracking number. So this way they can reduce the cost. One other way by which you can reduce the cost is purchasing online too. So online purchasing could be, or procurement could be another way by which you want to reduce the cost, and that's the objective. That could be the objective of the marketing plan. Achieving brand goals. Some companies have some branding goals. They want to ensure that their brand is equally respectful or respectable in online environment as well. A good example for that is Hyundai cars. They came up with some really good websites in order to build in brand equity. They want to build a very good brand image of their cars, especially in the US, and that was the objective of their websites. Improve databases. Improving databases, which means that now when you have the website, you can have a database which you can keep on gathering, and on basis of that you can do database marketing. Achieve customer relationship management goals. We will learn a lot about CRM, or the customer relationship management, and one of the objective is, especially the banks, their objective to set up a website is to achieve the CRM goals, because they want to. So for example, as I mentioned to you in chapter 1, that when banks set up the website, and if we go online, dial the number, or go online and help ourselves by checking our balance, by checking our accounts, that is part of the CRM. So in the case of banking, that could be one of the objective to achieve the CRM goals, or to improve the supply chain management. Some companies simply, especially B2B, they are improving their supply chain management using their website. This was step number 3. Step number 4 is the e-marketing strategies. That's where I told you that the lower end of that, which is the tier 2, is, let me show you once again that diagram. This is the lower end, the yellow one. These are the tier 2 tasks, and that's the step number 4. Okay, e-marketing strategies. Marketers craft strategies for the 4Ps and relationship management to achieve the plan objectives. So there could be product strategies, which we said the product which they are offering, or the offering online, or the offer. Pricing strategies, which is the value. Distribution strategies, marketing communication strategies, relationship management strategies. These are referred as Tier 2 or Task 2 strategies. Number 5 is the implementation plan, which means that the tactics or short-term steps which you take to achieve the plan objectives. So in this case, you use the marketing mix tactics, which are the 4Ps. Apart from the 4Ps, now you use the relationship marketing or relationship management tactics, which is the CRM, the marketing organization tactics, as well as the information gathering tactics. These are part of the implementation of that plan. And of course, in your plan, you're supposed to let us know what kind of short-term techniques you will be using in order to implement the plan. That would be part of step number 5. That takes us to step number 6. The step number 6 is the budget. The plan must identify the expected return from marketing investment. So we need to see what are the revenue forecasts, which means what will be our sales, intangible benefits. Now, if you go back to the objectives for a minute, let's go back here. If you look at the achieving branding goals, now obviously your question would be, how are we going to achieve the branding goals, or how are we going to tell whether we have achieved the branding goals? And these are intangible, right? And this is where we have this problem here, as you can see, intangible benefits such as the brand equity. Now, there are still some ways by which you can find out whether we achieve the brand equity or not. But generally speaking, it takes a long time to get that, and you cannot measure that in the short term. Cost savings. Cost savings could be in a number of ways. One could be in the way you let the customer help themselves online. This way your cost goes down because they are not calling you. It could be costs in procuring some products by not using paperwork and all that. All of these cost savings should be demonstrated. And then you have the marketing costs, these are the costs which are genuine cost. Technology is not still very inexpensive, it is still expensive, and it will cost you a lot of money to set up the websites as well as have some databases, depending on how big your project is. Even though some companies are outsourcing the technology also, but in the case of banks, for example, they would not risk to outsource this kind of technology because a lot of security issues are involved here. The site design, the salaries of the people, the other site development expenses are there too, and the marketing communication too. So essentially these are the steps these are part of the budget which you need to take into consideration. Finally, we have the step number 7, which is the evaluation plan. Marketing plan success depends on continuous evaluation. You need to see that where you are spending the money, are they really bringing in the revenue, or are we achieving the objectives or not? E-marketers must have tracking systems in place to measure the results. The good thing about e-marketing is that yes, technology is available by which we can track things. It's not like advertising that you advertise and then you don't know whether, for example, advertising on radio or TV, it'll be difficult to find out exactly whether we achieve the goals or not. But in the case of e-marketing, you can pinpoint and see that what you invested on the e-marketing plan, were they able to bring in the results or not. So they are measurable results. Similarly, review the balance scorecard for e-business. We discussed the balance scorecard in the last chapter. Today's firms are mostly return on investment driven. They want to make sure that they are getting their money out. Now, after having gone through these 7 steps, I must also remind you that there will be a short assignment given to you for this semester in which you will be required to write a short marketing plan, e-marketing plan. You will be allowed to go through any of the resources online, do some secondary research, but you will be given marks based on unique ideas. And of course, your work will be sent through to the um, Turnitin to see any plagiarism. So make sure that when you do a project like that, there are lots and lots of projects available out there, the marketing plans, but I want you to make sure to come up with your unique idea and project and then prepare the marketing plan. So this chapter, as I said, is an important chapter. Make sure that you read it carefully, and then I will be looking forward for your assignment, because if your projects are unique, you will get some extra marks as well. So that should take care of this chapter, chapter number 3. Until the next chapter 4, take care and goodbye.